Hey guys, welcome back to the Digital Artcast. Here with another episode. I hope moving forward, just now, as of kind of time of recording, we're in March here, the middle of March, and I know that a lot of you guys will be experiencing a bit of discomfort or a bit of weirdness in your life because of the coronavirus and the things that are going about the planet at the moment. I hope you guys are all staying safe and healthy. And of course, I'm here on the podcast to try and give you something to at least take your mind off it or think about other things for a moment. We've got a real treat today, actually. Something we were talking about just before we started recording. I have a guest on that is the first guest that's came on for a second time. So we have the first repeat customer for Digital Artcast. Today we are talking to Mr. Maxx Burman again. So hey Max, what's happening?
Hey Gordon, thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, man, defo. Me and Max were talking kind of earlier in the day, and we kind of had a back and forth about an article that Max has just released on the Kitbash website about kind of just the survival's guide, if anything, for freelance workers and artists having to work from home at this time during the pandemic. And I thought it might be a good topic to cover, mostly because people will be interested probably in what Max has to say with his experience, and of course, a general just tips for, if it maybe is the first time you're working from home or you're having to work from home and you're not quite sure how to go about your day to day. Max might have some insights into things you can do to ease the pain of, not having colleagues about you, or maybe a solid structure in your day to day. So we've got him on to talk about that. But before that, if people don't know who you are so far, which would really puzzle me at this point, but if they don't, could you just quickly introduce yourself, Max?
Sure. My name is Maxx Burman. I'm the co-founder of Kitbash3D, and prior to that, I was art director and a map painter for over 10 years in the film and games industry. So I have quite a bit of experience of working from home. I've attempted it a couple times and tried and failed several times until I really got a system working for it.
Yeah.
And as this coronavirus pandemic has really taken a hold of our society, and a lot of people are making this adjustment,
Mm-hmm.
I think for us, our first move was to close down the Kitbash office in LA, make
Mm-hmm.
sure everyone got all the equipment they need to work from home, and had a couple days to go pick up supplies.
Mm-hmm.
And once everyone got settled in, we had a big video chat to brainstorm and come up with really how Kitbash was going to be able to respond to this in a way that helped. I think we've all gotten way too many emails from everyone we've ever given our email address to, telling
Mm-hmm.
us what they're doing inside of their company, and
Right.
that's not really helpful to us. And to be honest, like I expect that you sent your employees home and that you're being hygienic. Um,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was going to say, I think most people I've spoke to in some parts of the VFX industry, I know are either have kind of either fully moved to remote at this point or are in the process of like setting up the VPN and getting ready for people to remote work. Although I think the last person I spoke to about it was Andrew Hodgson, was saying, where he is just now. I think it's NPC. I forget where he is now. I think he's an NPC, but he was saying that they were setting up a VPN so they could work remotely, and he wasn't looking forward to that because how the whole pipeline sits in a studio. It's going to be a bit harder doing that stuff remotely. He says even obviously just the ease of getting up and walking from your desk to somebody else's to ask them something would be a bit more of a pain. But then of course you endure because these aren't normal circumstances. But then I take it because you guys have a back and forward with studios as well. I mean, also if people don't know what Kitbash3D is, I'll leave all Max's links in the description so you guys can check it out. But you provide 3D ready models for VFX, film, games, all that kind of stuff. And your kits will obviously range from dystopian futures to post-apocalyptic to fantasy. How many kits have you guys got now? Quite a few, right?
Yeah, I think we have around 40 kits.
Wow, wow. I can remember when you had two.
And
That seems like a while ago, but yeah, because the last time we bumped into each other was Industry Workshops 2018, right? Something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So the company has grown. Even just a kind of quick minute before we dive into it. Um, I know maybe you maybe don't want to go into a full history of Kitbash, but maybe quickly just what Kitbash is to you guys and maybe what you're working on currently.
sure. Yeah, really the mission of Kitbash is to enable and inspire artists.
Hmm.
And so while part of that is building 3D assets, we try to take a wider approach to that to say,
Hmm.
what can we do to remove technical barriers so that artists can execute their visions? And what
Hmm.
can we do to inspire artists by spotlighting um, people's work and
Hmm.
providing connection to the top artists in the game and film industry so that a new generation of artists, a much wider generation, can really get exposed to this and get excited about building worlds.
Right, yeah, because your kits are kind of pre-made, just that if someone had a vision for a particular style or setting, they can just open the packs as they come pre-made, and then the textures, UVs, everything's kind of set and ready to go. They can just be moved and then rendered almost instantaneously. There's a lot of stuff that is done beforehand, right? Before the guys get the pack in their hands, there's less, setup involved in executing those, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is always an evolving process, and we have quite the team right now working on so many different aspects of it.
Yeah,
Um,
you just took on a full time 3D modeler. It was former Blur environment artist, I think, was it? Or
yeah, Darren Butler, who was a 3D lead over at Blur, he's
cool.
3D supervisor over there, and he's been there for 12 years, something like
Wow,
that. He just came on as our head of 3D.
cool.
We have, I mean, we have quite the stacked team on our end, and Darren's doing an amazing job, really revamping a lot of our processes. Um,
Hmm.
but in terms of what we're working on, really, we're trying to make building digital worlds as ubiquitous as building a website. And
Right.
our milestone right now is that someone who's never used 3D before should be able to build a world and share it with a friend within one day.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay. Right. Yeah. That's a big ask for a lot of people in general because I know. Well, I think it's easier now because the tools themselves are getting a little easier to manage. But I definitely have seen some um, inspiring stuff that's been, especially I think recently because you guys also publish the cyberpunk stuff. So I know that will be a hot topic soon. Of course, with CD Projekt rounding out their project, and then the spaceships thing just launched. So also incredible sci-fi industrial. The Edo Japan is one that I'm still looking for at one point because yeah, I would just love to. I'm just looking to eventually remake Tenchu at some point, so I can just make my own version of that. So, um, but yeah, your stuff is mind blowingly good. It kind of reminds me of it's like a super high class version of the Cinti Studios. I don't know if you've ever heard of those guys. They make like low poly assets for like Unreal and Unity engines. They kind of make these whole um, giant packs. They have like a World War pack or a Battle Royale pack or a zombie apocalypse pack, and it's like they provide characters, cars, vehicles, buildings, and like large packs so that people can just throw them into Unity or Unreal and build a game in a weekend. So you guys have the kind of higher end of the spectrum because your stuff is used more in feature films, VFX shots, trailers, and video games as well, right? I think has this stuff crossed into the kind of AAA realm as well.
yeah, definitely, definitely a lot of game studios using this stuff, and
Cool.
that's another thing that we're working on right now is I think game engines provide an interesting challenge. So much is changing there right now, and you look
Mm.
at stuff like The Mandalorian and the behind the scenes, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's all in Unreal and it looks photoreal. and
Yep.
that creates a very different type of game engine asset. And so
Yeah.
I think for us, we always want to skate to where the puck is going. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
so we've kept our stuff a lot more high poly count than most game engine stuff, but
Hmm.
really with the idea that game engines are increasing what they're capable of more and more. Um,
Well, yeah, I was going to say the next gen's just around the corner at this point. In fact, I think at the time of speaking, PlayStation are about to announce the next stage for PlayStation. So yeah, it kind of is getting to that point, and I think obviously with the Mandalorian stuff, that's also credit to John, because John Favreau is, I think, very aware of the technology side of the industry when producing and being on set with stuff. So I think he's also championed a lot of that. But yeah, the eminence of like real time, I think, especially where a lot of it was pre-rendered previously within stuff like Maya and Redshift. I think the new real time render engines, especially this like Eevee and Blender, is getting to a point now that it's very powerful and very forward looking. But then, of course, you know that. Of course, this is your day to day. This is things you're thinking about. Um, as of just now, you've got the spaceships out, but then you will have stuff planned even beyond that. Are you always looking like 5 or 6 kits in front of yourself?
way more than that. I think we got. I think there's 15 kits currently in production, with
Wow,
another 10 to 15 in the design phase right now. So, I mean, we're building kits for summer 2021 right now.
wow. Okay, yeah, that's that. But then, of course, I mean, that obviously, I mean, I'm saying wow, but that will make sense for a business point of view, right? You want to be thinking, like you said, you want to be skating to where the puck is, right? You want to be well ahead of the curve and see that before it even happens, and almost like like a stock market trader, you're watching the up and down curve. You're trying to think about where it's going to land, and you were just talking there about games, and you think that's going to be. I mean, like again, talking about the future of like Xbox and PlayStation and other systems. You look at some of the stuff they're demoing at the moment and how powerful that is. Um, the I think the blur almost is coming between film and games now. Like there is a very much, the production values are so similar. Like you said with Mandalorian, the reason Unreal can be used at that level now is because game engines have came so far. So yeah, it's definitely going to be something you're thinking about moving forward. Is that more of a focus now? You would say is more of the game side of the industry and less in VFX film now, or is it kind of evenly balanced?
I see the two merging, and
Right,
I think what our one of our challenges is right now is um, to establish what the gold standard for these assets are with this changing technology.
right,
I don't think that there is a gold standard out there, and a lot of
right.
studios have different pipelines that we have to work within. But
Hmm.
also, I think we're getting to a point now where we can influence a bit of that conversation of saying, yeah, you might work this way, but technology is changing so quickly that we might
Mm,
be able to get there faster than you. Um,
right.
and that's not undermining any studios out there, because their
Yeah,
technical are absolutely unbelievable.
of
It's
course.
fair to say that we live and breathe assets, and
Mm,
figuring out what is the best way to make an asset as flexible and as high quality as possible for every
mm,
software and for uh, every studio pipeline and hundreds of thousands of artists.
right.
So it's a really exciting time while all of this is changing, and
Yeah,
while we have the opportunity to have some influence in the conversation.
right. Yeah, of course. Because you're such a, I'd say a major player, but then that's funny how quickly that has changed the conversation, because like I said, laughing at the start, I'm saying I remember when you had 2 kits, but then I think Kitbash was almost in its infancy when we were at industry workshops. Although the idea had already kind of been executed, it was still like initial first steps. But now, I think even just over a year, maybe even just a year itself, you've came so far, in terms of notoriety and recognizability in the industry. And of course, now the stuff you're producing is getting, the bar again is getting higher and higher with every kit. Um, it maybe sound a weird question, but is there an end goal in sight, or is there something? I mean, you talk about the gold standard. That's maybe one part of it, but as a business, is there something that you feel you need to achieve to almost max out, or is there no limit to the vision of Kitbash? Or can it go on infinitely?
I think that our team really loves what we do, and we
Hmm.
love working on this. And
Hmm.
so I think it's important that we set a goal that's so ambitious that it's going to take us a long time to achieve.
Right.
In the past, we've set goals that we thought were ambitious, and we got there a lot faster than we thought. And then
Yeah.
we're faced with the the challenge of saying, well, what now? Uh,
Yeah.
so I really do think that putting the stake in the ground and saying um, we want to make building 3D worlds as ubiquitous as building a website
Right.
is a large enough goal to keep us occupied for a while.
Of course, it would be. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
well, then again, yeah, but I mean, it's kind of in essence how, maybe no as big a comparison, although they are a very big company also. But looking at Squarespace and how they have managed to make that website process in their own terms so easy to maneuver, it's probably the same thing where you want to take almost the technological part kind of out the way and have a more artistic input in a lot of the process, so that people aren't having to worry about, like you said, UV and texture and placing assets. That's all kind of pre-done for you, and you're just um comping a lot of that stuff to make your shots. So yeah, I mean, Kitbash in itself is a huge project. So what's your, I mean, can you talk about what's, um I say next, but maybe just the closest thing that is on your uh production line? Like, is there something that's kind of about to come out, or something that's not far out you can talk about, or something that's next?
um, I can I can say that we are hard at work in game engines,
Okay.
and also that we're working on a ton of things right now. One of the things that's happened with Kitbash as we've grown is
Hmm.
things take a lot longer. Um,
Okay.
we were so used to in the beginning projects being a couple weeks or a couple months, and now
Hmm.
they're a couple years. Uh,
Wow.
I think it's just because our ambitions have grown.
Yeah.
And so there's things that we're working on now where if you use a kit right now, it is not ubiquitous. You know, you have to know 3D, you have to know quite a bit. Um,
Right.
and the things that we're doing to remove a lot of those technical barriers aren't just let me plug some things in for a kit, because
Hmm.
we now have over 10,000 assets that we're managing.
Wow.
So when a technology changes, it's not just about, okay, how do we shift to this technology? We have
Hmm.
to work with those softwares to figure out what is the best way to utilize this technology, and then how do we build tools to automate the conversion of over 10,000 assets, and how do we do it
Hmm.
in a way that works for everyone using any software. Um,
Right.
so the challenge just becomes more and more difficult, but also very exciting and takes a lot longer. But in the short term, game engines is I can say that that's where our focus is, and in the long term,
Hmm.
we're working very hard with a great R&D team
Hmm.
on tools and software that should alleviate a lot of the struggles.
Cool. That sounds really awesome, man. Well, yeah, that sounds interesting. Of course, I mean, I'm always excited to see what you guys are doing, especially when you get an artist on to do your cover images. It's always incredible to see the work that can be produced using your tools. And yeah, man, I just wish you guys luck for the foreseeable future. I'm sure it's going to be, whatever you do is going to be awesome. So yeah. Um, Also, I'm just thinking as well. I'm talking about 2018 Industry Workshops. The last time we saw each other was in LA in September at Lightbox. That was the last time we actually saw each other outside of the convention center for in Pasadena. That was the last time we saw each other. So yeah, it actually skipped my mind. I thought, I was like, yeah, I haven't seen you since 2018, and I was like, yeah, I only saw you 6 months ago. Why did that slip my mind? So yeah. Okay, so moving forward on to the working from home vibe, which is kind of why we've got you on here today, especially just to kind of go over that in particular detail. Um, why did you want to write it, first of all?
Yeah, I think Monday was an interesting day for us at Kitbash, and we
Mhm.
had our first all hands video chat meeting. Well, actually, we do touch bases every Friday, so we had one
Mhm.
on Friday just to make sure everyone was safe, and comfortable at home. But Monday was definitely the sit down to say, okay, what do we want to do as a team here?
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, how can we use what we've built in order to make this situation better for people? And again, going back to our company mission is to enable and inspire artists, and that really is
Mm-hmm.
the through line for every action we take. And as we were talking, we really realized that there were some tangible things that we could do that help. And maybe some of those things might seem small, but you never know what someone else is going through, and what might seem small to you might be big for someone else.
Right. Okay.
Uh,
So it was just a kind of almost user's guide that not only people outside your team could use, but mostly that your team could use while they worked at home as well.
yeah, that was that was step one, and we'll chat about a couple of the other things that we're doing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but the first thing was just for me, my girlfriend is now working out of my place, and she's never worked from home before, and uh,
Okay.
kind of seeing that, being like, oh right, there's a couple tips and tricks here
Mm-hmm.
that are almost natural to me just because I've been doing it for so long. Uh,
Yeah.
but then I started to remember the first time I worked from home and
Mm-hmm.
just crashed.
Yeah.
I made it like a month, and at first I was like, "This is amazing! Like I can
Mm-hmm.
wear PJs all day," and I ended up working just nonstop all day, all night, and feeling like I was just trapped at work and I couldn't get away.
Mm.
And so I really, the line that I say quite a bit is, working from home can often feel like you're living at work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's where putting boundaries in place really helps, and just putting out there an article of some of the boundaries that I've learned to put in place, because I think really the big thing is so many artists think that art is created in a chaotic space,
Right.
but as a professional artist, it's really about creating order and structure around creation.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I think even the fact that the way I have, or the way I've situated myself, I mean, I'm the plan is anyway. See, we'll see how Corona dictates that. The plan is to move out with my partner in the summer. So we're going through to Glasgow to stay full time. So at the moment, I'm still with my parents post graduation. And the office I have at the moment is somewhere that I not only come to work but also just to escape family life from day to day. So I'm here quite a lot, and I did feel like it was a thing where even if I came here to relax, because the computer was only like 5 kind of steps away from my couch, I kind of felt like, oh, I should be working, and then I'd sit here for a while and be like, oh, I should go and sit down and play a game and chill because I've been here for a couple of hours. So yeah, it's hard when there's not a person over your shoulder pointing the finger saying, you should take a break, you should be working. And I think that's the balance, right? Is learning to be your own uh just boss in general, just your own voice of reason. Because like you said, working at home can feel like living at work, and you know, even the steps. When you talk about being intentional with your day, I think the one thing I've struggled with is scheduling and blocking out time, saying right, from that, like you say, from I think it's 10 o'clock in the morning to 7 at night. Those are your office hours, right? And anything out with side that is leisure time or family time or time with your partner. So how did you start to build that system initially?
Yeah, I think discipline has been something that's been pretty natural to me, or something I was raised with,
Hmm.
a very very strong sense of discipline. Uh, so I think it comes a little easier to me than maybe some other people, of saying, hey, this is a blocked out time and I'm going to stick to it.
Right.
But I've also gone overboard on imbalance. Usually for me, I lean on the side of working too much, that ends up being usually where my downfall is, rather than not being able to work or playing video games all the time.
Right.
Um, but it doesn't really matter. Either one is not healthy.
Yes.
Uh, I think I've tried a couple different things to try to make this work. It took me 3 attempts to be able to work from home sustainably, and each time I made it a little longer and a little longer. Uh,
Right.
after the first one, I remember just feeling so stir crazy, and I just needed to get back to an office.
Hmm.
And the next time, I made it about 6 months, and the first maybe 4 months, I was super disciplined, and then I started to slip. And
Mm,
as soon as I started to slip, it's so hard to get that momentum back that it just became a
yeah.
downward spiral until I needed to get out of the house again.
Yeah. And then that was a thing where you talk about creating schedules, right? And the way how, you designate a kind of time and a slot for each thing you were doing. So how were you, I mean, all your day from 10 to 7 would be work, but then how were you scheduling those blocks? Was that broken up by maybe project or discipline, or did you have a part maybe during the day when you were learning things and weren't working on stuff?
This kind of goes to creating a intention for the day. So
Hmm.
I would write out everything I wanted to accomplish that day and
Hmm.
have that as my guide. And
Right.
I think also having a list of things that you're trying to get through and a cutoff time means that you use your time a lot more efficiently during that block. Uh,
Right.
you kind of have this race going. At least I do. I'm kind of racing the clock every day, and I do this even when I'm at the office.
Hmm.
Of saying, 7 p.m. is the cutoff time, so I'm going to race to try to check off everything on this list before that.
Right.
If I get done early, that's great. Let me see if there's something else I can do to be productive because that's what I'm slotted for here.
Right.
And it's going to make it that much more rewarding when I finish up my day and can go cook dinner or watch a movie or
Mm.
something like that.
Right. Yeah. Because then you have to almost shut that part of your brain off and not think about work, and make sure that you're just then focusing on, post 7, that you're just focusing on, time with your partner, time doing something creative, not creative, sorry, relaxing. Although, well, it could be creative but relaxing. But yeah, so I think that's the problem I have at the moment sometimes, is that my days are so open. Trying to schedule something is the hardest part, because I haven't, I've never worked in games or film full time, and I haven't worked on a project per se. So a lot of those soft skills are lost on me, and it's something that I've never really had to look for, because I think we've talked about this in the podcast before, that the problem I've kind of had my whole life is that my parents have basically handed me everything, so I've not really had to work for anything my entire life. Even when I had my first job, it was through a contact my father had. So leaving my job, going back to university, networking the last couple of years, that was all off my own back, which I felt proud doing that much, obviously, and I was glad I went to university and got my degree. I'm the first one in my family to do that. But now, post graduation, I'm in this kind of void where I'm trying to focus on tasks, but it is very hard to schedule your time when I'm not that I'm saying I don't know what I need to make for a portfolio, but it's like, well, what are the steps I should be taking? What should I be studying? Because there's almost at this point, when I was studying a couple of years back, like I think Learn Squared had only just taken off. A lot of this stuff was in its infancy. Same with ArtStation. So now there's like an overabundance of tutorials. So I think the focus is like, where do I focus? Where do I put that time? Although that would have been a bit more deliberate for you, because at the time you were you were map painting full time. That was your career. So were you learning alongside those times as well, or was it all just working on projects?
Um, one of the nice things about being a digital artist is that you can multitask, and I don't think there was ever a time when I wasn't listening to something, a podcast, a class, a tutorial,
Right.
or something up on one screen while I was painting on the other.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this idea of how to get focused, uh,
Hmm.
it's an interesting one. It kind of goes back to the Kitbash thing.
Hmm.
It's a surprising challenge to set your goals. Uh,
Yep.
it's not easy. It sounds easier than it is, and it really takes a lot of internal discovery of
Right.
really getting clear and asking yourself, what do I want with my life? What do I want with my career?
Hmm.
And that's a lot of people don't have an answer for that, and that's okay
Hmm.
too. But I
Are you using meditation throughout your day as well, or is that something you've done for a while, or
um,
mindfulness or something like that? Or
I try. I definitely try. I'm definitely not as regimented as I should be. On a really good week, I'll get a 10-minute meditation in the morning, but it's definitely something that I have a lot of improvement to be had there. But I
Yeah.
do journal every morning, and I think journaling helps a lot. Um,
I was just going to touch on that because I saw a bit in your article where you talked about journaling and writing down your goals, but also the gratefulness kind of part of it, where if you could write down 3 things you were grateful for, that would be a bonus. Is that something you've done over meditation? Is that something that you've done for a while? Is also journaling?
yeah, I haven't missed a journaling day in maybe a year.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
that's something that's a crucial part of my day. I know that it makes my day better.
Are you keeping this electronically, or is it just a book in front of you? Or
I have a book because I like to actually get away from a screen and write on paper there. And
makes sense? Yeah.
also, what I like about a book is it limits how much you can write. I always just do one page. The right side of the page is free thought, where I just have to fill the page. Doesn't matter what I write, I just have to fill the page.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the left side, I write 3 things I'm grateful for and 3 things that'll make today a success. Uh,
Oh, okay.
and I
Interesting.
try to limit it to 3 because, yes, there's, especially when running a company, there's a million things that you can do. But when
Right.
you limit it to 3 things, you get very, very clear on what those goals and priorities are.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know I'd actually looked at the journal, and I think I might actually start it because I've had a lot of epiphanies when I went walking recently, and just without music, without anybody beside me, I've just walked with my own thoughts. I found that you have a good time of working through what's in your head when you're having to just be alone with your thoughts. But also, someone recommended the my therapist was recommending using future self journaling, so journaling from the perspective of, you're sitting at 80 years old and you're writing about, what your life was like, when you were younger, or the things you've accomplished. So it gives you also a projection into, or a vision into what your future could be as well. A lot of really powerful tools. Even I don't know if you've read Cal Newport's book Deep Work. A really good read as well. I'm kind of listening to an audiobook at the moment. But then again, it's a very what's the word, focus and determined book about how you can almost get so much done by just uninterrupted purposeful practice, where you cut every distraction away from your day, and you just focus on one thing at a time, and then that will produce like the maximum results. It talks about like some authors who would hire a cabin in the woods miles from civilization just to finish pages, and they would only write on old school typewriters, nothing electronic, no email, no phones. Is that also part of your day as well? Do you kind of go anti social media or anti communication during the day, or are you quite available? Do you answer a lot of emails, a lot of messages online?
I stay kind of away from social media in general. Uh,
Okay.
every once in a while, I'll pop my head up on there. Um, emails, yeah, throughout the day. I mean, most of my job is emails at this point. Uh,
Okay.
so I keep a zero inbox,
Hmm.
and that's just something to make sure that no
Yeah.
one's waiting on me to make progress.
Right.
Um, but I think going back to the journaling thing,
Yes.
the way I start my free write every day is just by writing the words "today I feel," and then I have to fill in
Mm.
the rest. And
Okay.
I think what that does is it forces me to, and usually I have to take a quite a big pause there to really try to check in and see where am I at right now.
Mm.
Just even that time designated to check in and say, what am I feeling? Am I anxious
Hmm.
today? Am I excited today? Am I afraid today? Um,
Mm.
and that a lot of the times I'll go through my day if I don't do that, I'll go through my day not knowing, and
Right.
reacting to things from a space where I might be oblivious to my tone or my mood. Uh,
Right.
but if I can get clear on that first thing in the day, then either I can work through that problem in the journal, or at least have the context of when something comes up, I can know that I'm reacting out of a space of excitement or maybe a space of fear.
Right. Okay, cool. So again, being very honest with yourself about your goals, but also how you're feeling during the day, and then trying to work. I mean, because I think it is, once you get it out your head onto the page, it becomes less. I'm trying to think of a good way to describe this, but your head becomes less cluttered, or you feel like you're clearer in the morning if you get that down. Have you, you said you've not missed a day, but then I know I was going to ask you how you would feel, or if you had a day you'd missed, how you felt that day. But then if you've never missed a day, then you
Well,
couldn't really answer that. Yeah.
I've missed days before this streak.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And was that something you noticed, like purposefully or mindfully, that you did feel different those days, or you did feel like you weren't as? I mean, you're always productive, but you weren't maybe as focused, or
Definitely, yeah.
right.
And I think when you get it out on paper, you know, if it's just kind of like a to-do list, I think if you write a to-do list, then you don't feel like you're trying to juggle so many things and afraid to forget something. Um,
Yeah.
Once it's on paper, it feels like it's stable, and you don't have to think about it anymore because you've put it somewhere.
Yeah. Because you're also making those goals, I'm assuming, quite realistic, or something that you feel like you definitely can manage, or are you also, you're maybe putting one goal that's attainable, but two maybe that are out with reach, or they're all manageable? How do you kind of balance your goals for the day?
Yeah, it's Banks and I did a talk throughout Europe this year on called "Create Without Permission," and a big part
Hmm.
of it was what is a goal and what is a
Hmm.
bullshit goal, and
Right.
defining bullshit goals as goals that there is no finish line to.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with those aspirations of I want to be a better artist.
Right.
That's a great thing to aspire to, but that's not a tangible goal because at no point are you going to be able to say I've accomplished this.
Right. Yeah. Uh, but
If
yeah, but making them manageable, and then no using. I love how you say bullshit goals. It isn't even just like a bad goal; it's a bullshit goal. But then is that, I feel it's almost like that's an entire podcast in itself, is manageable goals, because I think a lot of people. I think that's also what I'm guilty of, is like I'm just putting every day, I'm putting the pressure on myself to say, right, I just want to get better at art, but I'm not breaking that down into, like, for instance, okay, today I'm going to draw 100 hands or whatever, or today I'm going to get better at drawing heads. Like, that's something I feel like I'm definitely missing. I'm just every day like, okay, let's get better at art, and just opening something random, a book or a tutorial, and just maybe mindlessly learning. And that's something you're saying that's definitely like, that would be a bullshit goal, is just be a better artist.
Well, yeah, and I used the word bullshit goal, or we used it in our talk to be
Hmm.
somewhat harsh and jarring in order to try to dissuade people from
Hmm.
considering those goals. I
Hmm.
consider that a mission, and I think there's a good distinction between a mission and a goal. Um,
Right.
the Kitbash mission is to enable and inspire artists. We're never going
Hmm.
to accomplish that. It's not a goal to accomplish. It's a mission to strive for and keep as a through line. Um,
Right.
a goal has a measurable result at the end of it. Uh,
Right.
and I think once you can get clear on what the measurable result is,
Hmm.
on what would it mean, what do I need to accomplish in order to actually check the box on this one,
Right.
that creates something tangible that you can actually take actions towards.
Yeah, I think it's even the power of checklists. I mean, I know Matt Diavella and Thomas Frank have done numerous videos on checklists, saying that when people had unsurmountable goals, or something they were actually doing for the first time they didn't know how to achieve, they would always break it down into a checklist. I think they talked specifically about some of the NASA missions that they'd done at the initial first stage, and how, again, a lot of things had never been accomplished. It was an all kind of brand new territory to them, so they broke it down into checklists, and they just had simple, just boxes with a goal next to it, and something that you could check off every day that would get you on track. Because, like you said, the bullshit goal is, go to space. The checklist then has to be like, well, we need to build a rocket. How do we build the rocket? Well, we need to assemble these parts, or we need to, so it's definitely, I think, a good way of freelancing or building your time when you're outside of an office, is breaking larger goals into smaller goals. And I think that's what you do, like you said, every day, is just checking off a couple of goals per day. I think is very manageable. But then I think it's also about being, again, you've talked about you're on the other end of the spectrum where you've been a workaholic, but you do talk in your article about, simple stuff like, shower and get dressed as though you're going to the office, take regular breaks, call somebody. So there is a lot of a human side within that, within the work as well. and that's also important to be productive as well, right?
Yeah, and I think that it's all a balance, and it's very rare that I've ever met anyone that is striking the exact middle point between the two. I definitely
Yeah.
never have, but I think that's a worthy endeavor to strive for.
Yeah, definitely. And is that something that you've also found? Because I definitely feel this is a trend. But then, when you were kind of young, free, and single, you've only got your work. You've only got maybe a single goal of I want to be better in this industry. But then, have you found that even just friendship relationships or partner relationships, is that something that's made you think more about balancing your life?
Yeah, I think not just um, my incredible partner, but
Hmm.
and my amazing family, but
Yeah.
now having an incredible team at Kitbash, and
Mm.
very much in the forefront of my mind and Banks's mind is
Hmm.
we're running a marathon here. Our
Right.
ambitions are very big, and it's going to take us a long time to get there. So
Yep.
we need to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, that we're staying happy and healthy, that we
Yeah.
are encouraging balance in our teams so that we never cause burnout, that instead
Yeah.
we set up our team to be able to have a lifestyle that is maintainable for a very long time.
Yeah, because I think it's definitely again, this could be a whole other podcast, but then burnout is a real thing. I know people have done talks on it recently about how to notice when burnout's coming, how to recover from it, and scary scientific facts about seeing how some people are so burnt out in their career it can actually take them years to bounce back into a normal routine. I mean, I definitely feel like I left my career, I left my job in 2012, and I've been kind of on the forefront of trying to get in here at this point, and I definitely feel like I'm burnt out, but then I'm still pushing on because I need to get a job at one point. But like, yeah, it's something that I think the industry suffers from in general, and I think I almost normalized overworking because you hear so many stories about people in the industry who, work 14-hour days, work the weekends, never see their kids. I mean, especially in Scotland, the guys at Rockstar were famous for the wives of the artists, protesting outside for their husbands to come home because they work so many hours. So, yeah, but then I think it's also because, you'll know yourself, the industry and a lot of the parts of the industry are still very young. So, striking that balance of work and life has been an ongoing process, and like you were saying, that's a thing you want to champion it at Kitbash. Is that because you've had maybe so many negative experiences in the past, or just something that was always in the forefront of building a business for you?
It's one of the reasons why we built a business in the first place. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I think Banks and I came together after decade-long careers in the film industry, having both
Mm.
experienced a lot of the short-sightedness, I would say, of the
Right.
industry. Um, and I still say to this day, if I ever worked at a studio that um, made me feel appreciated and uh, made my lifestyle and happiness and healthiness a priority to them, I probably would have stayed there for the rest of my career.
Yeah, I know, and it's it's kind of sad that you were at the peak of the industry and you had so many great opportunities, but you never found that equilibrium in the studio, which probably speaks more towards the industry in general, which is slightly worrying for people who probably want to get into it. But then, I think that is so much. I think I've talked about this many times, but it's so much of a part, I think, of this journey is that you have to find the studio that fits your lifestyle. I mean, I know when I was recently in LA and I got to visit the guys at Riot, a lot of the artists who were working there said that they felt Riot was one of the best life work balances they'd ever had in a studio. Some of them talking about they've been at previous studios and they never saw their families or had any time for relationships, but in Riot they felt like they had a good equilibrium. I think even the fact I knew that the guys at Riot paid for the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Simple stuff like that was like, yeah, they do. I think they do feel appreciated there. So yeah, it's a thing where I think, yeah, people know that if they get somewhere they feel comfortable, then they will just hunker down and stay the course. I mean, I guess you're hoping that's the case for Kitbash, right? You're hoping that the guys enjoy the process so much that they want to be part of that team for the long haul or the long term.
Yeah, we spend so much time recruiting, and by that I mean we spend so much time trying to find the perfect person for a position or a role,
Mm,
and we don't want to have to go and do that again.
right.
We love the people on our team, and it would be heartbreaking to lose someone who's so paramount to our mission. So
Yeah.
whatever we can do in the day to day operations of everything to ensure that they're living the most comfortable and extraordinary life, um,
Mm,
and to make sure that we as a company are moving towards a mission that everyone believes in and can rally behind and feel fulfilled from.
right.
And I think that kind of brings us to this coronavirus pandemic that's going on, and going back to our mission. And it
Hmm.
was really incredible how everyone on the team really wanted to contribute something to artists.
Yeah.
Um, and if that's a guide of how to work from home, that's one thing. And I think there's a lot of other things that we're doing for this. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that also with this whole pandemic, there's this silver lining on this, and I try to look at the positives of this, and I don't need to reiterate all the negatives because I think you can
Well,
find that
yeah.
yourself.
Of course.
But for the last couple of years, we've been racing. Everyone in the world has been moving so quickly and so head down, uh,
Mm,
and there's so much chatter and noise, and people working crazy hours that they might not even get the opportunity to take a step back and revisit the question of what do I want for my life.
right.
And this gives this opportunity to be at home, to spend some more time with loved ones, and to spend some time on yourself to really think, what am I doing? What do I want to do? What am I excited about? How am I feeling right now? And what are my goals?
Yeah.
And taking that step back, using this time to maybe learn a new skill that you didn't have before, or maybe you have been working nonstop and this is the first chance that you're going to get to recover from some burnout.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think it's kind of funny when I was looking this morning on social media. Even though again I'm trying to avoid as much as I can, but then I think I've kind of picked a bad time to avoid it because we're all confined to our own spaces now. But there was an article or a set of pictures that were really kind of almost beautiful, where in Italy, a lot of the parts are close to nature reserves or forests. So, because the cities have been devoid of humans for so long, there are actually wild animals and lots of parts of nature that are almost reclaiming the cities and coming in to feed and get food because the places are so quiet. In fact, like Venice, Italy, the rivers, because of the lack of tourists and boats and fishing and whatever else in the lakes, because there's so little of it now, the water is almost crystal clear. There's been dolphins, fish, and other things coming in from the sea back into the city to feed and meet people, because again it's so quiet, it's been so devoid of human life. The CO2 emissions from China, Italy, most parts of Europe are almost non-existent now. The skies in China are also probably, I think, the cleanest and clearest they've ever been in decades. So it just shows like how a couple of months can make a huge difference in the world we live in. And especially for guys like you and me in our 30s, like you're thinking to yourself, you want to be able to see the world a little far ahead of the curve, and a little further on past your years. And I think, like you said, it was the fault of ours, is that we were so fast and so heads down, we weren't actually noticing by the time we lifted our head the damage that was done around us. Um, and this is almost, like you said, tragic at the same time, but also giving us pause to think about how fast were we going and how could we have slowed down a bit more. But I think that's just the human condition, right? And something that maybe we've been learning as we've evolved the last 10, 15 years. Um, so yeah, definitely definitely a thing that has two edges, or two different kind of sides that you could look at it. But at least the guide, I feel is good also, that it has the balance of you can work, but you can also look after yourself. And I think you've got to do both to have a productive time working from home. I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, and I think with balance in mind, there's so much negative stuff online right now, and
Hmm.
it's really hard to ignore. And some of it you shouldn't ignore.
Yeah.
A lot of information coming out that we need to be paying attention to, so that we
Hmm.
can take actions to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
Of course.
Um, but I also think that we artists have a very unique gift and a responsibility right now.
Hmm.
One of the things as artists that we can do is create something that can transfer an emotion from one person to many.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think that for the artists who can step up right now to create positive images,
Hmm.
that's an incredible gift to the world. And
Yeah.
when you're scrolling through social media and you're seeing an endless amount of the world's falling apart, and you stumble upon some beautiful nature images of like, oh my God, look at this part being reclaimed.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
the the light that adds to your day is unquantifiable.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's very real, and like, it was almost like, I don't know if you've ever played The Last of Us, but then there's a part in that where Joel and Ellie are kind of clumping through the last bit of the city they're in to get to the fireflies, and they come across a giraffe randomly just eating some leaves off the side of a building. I think because they had been part of the zoo and they'd escaped, but then it showed how even when humans weren't here, there was parts of nature and beautiful things that went on beyond us that were still continuing to live and thrive. So yeah, I think, like you said, there's both sides of it, right? There's a side where there is a caution. We should be obviously open minded and thinking about what to do to prepare, but at the same time, there is a lot of good things that are coming from this. That things that maybe we weren't expecting would be good for the planet, but then actually is, and it's helping in certain parts and giving Mother Nature a chance to breathe. So yeah, like anything in life, there's good, there's bad. So I think focus on the good, and it definitely will. I think if you focus on the good, it will help you also be productive in your day, because there's also a trap of just sitting with negative thoughts in your head, and then you're almost paralyzed, right? You can't do anything. You just sit and stare at the monitor. So I think it also has to be a thing where the positive thoughts will help you just get through the day. It's sometimes unavoidable, but I think the more you focus on that stuff, the better your day and outcome will come at the end of that. Um, yeah.
Yeah, when we run into a tough situation, the thing I try to think about is, and I forgot what book this is from,
Mm,
but the line is, "What do you need to do to make this bad situation the best thing that ever happened?"
right. Yeah.
And I think that as a team at Kitbash, that's really where our heads at, is how do we make this a good situation?
Right.
I think where we see opportunity here is, this is a wonderful call to arms to show the impact and the gifts that artists have around the world.
Yes. Of
Um,
course. I
and
think it's also. Oh no. Okay. On you go, Max.
oh,
Sorry.
go for it, go for it.
No, I was just going to say it was interesting. I saw a tweet the other day when people were saying that people are talking about, oh, I'm going to play video games or I'm going to binge watch Netflix, and people were saying that when everybody has kind of like other no alternatives, everybody turns to the artists to entertain them, and you look at like how many artistic outlets are available now for people, so that yeah, if they don't want to deal with stuff in their day to day, there is an outlet that has been created by artists. And that's why I think people talk about the underappreciation of artists, and I think it's good to see that people still are aware now that, oh yeah, it's because of artists I can watch this series on Netflix, or I can play this video game. There is a need for them. There is a need for them in the world, and yeah, I definitely feel that that's a thing again that will help you moving forward. Is just remembering that you're part of this global community that creates and informs and entertains and helps people through difficult times. And then also there's a group of artists I know online, like my friend Hugo, who's making a lot of his nuke composition stuff like free and available on YouTube at this moment to help people during the crisis. There's a lot of free tutorials going up. I know Adobe has been helping some students at the moment, giving them free licenses for Adobe software to help them through the times. So yeah, it's good to see that there is that positive outreach in the community that's helping people focus on the good that artists can do as a community.
Yeah, by the time this podcast launches, we'll be out by we're releasing Utopia Kit for free on Kitbash.
Okay, cool.
And so anyone can download it for free. And what we'll be doing is shifting our social media and all of our content over to just sharing the positive imagery that people create using Utopia.
Oh, okay.
And I
Interesting. Really good.
think that's really our call to arms for the community, is saying, um, let's blast positive imagery. Let's blast images of a brighter future, and let's put our attention and focus there.
Right. Yeah, that could be a really awesome thing to do. And I think that's also good because I know we were talking about this not even a couple of weeks ago, where when you look into the future and people, writers especially, when they always talk about the future, it's always dystopian. It's always, self-destructive. It's always a terrible future where we've destroyed ourselves. And I think, like you said, using the Utopia Kit to then influence on, like, well, how would you see the future? How would you see the world, moving forward? What utopia would you want to see? I think that is definitely 100% a positive message, that can be shared and probably will inspire people. So yeah, so this episode should be going up. You should be hearing this at the start of April. So I'll leave the links. Max will send them over across to me. I'll leave the links below. You can grab the kit from there. And yeah, how are they? You maybe not talked about this yet, but submission. You're just going to kind of post them. Will there be a kind of, maybe not a competition, but will there be things where you'll come in, maybe rate the highest ones, or is it just literally you're going to just repost everybody who makes an image?
I think we're just going to try to repost as many of these images as possible.
Right.
I think we just finished a contest, but I don't think this is really about being competitive.
Competing. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think instead we're asking, give us ammunition to blast positive imagery.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's a really awesome thing you're doing, Max. Yeah, and to Max, of course. Yeah, definitely to him as well. We need to try and get a podcast at one point where we can get the both of you on and we can hear his chatter as well. It'd be really good. But then, yeah, that's been great that the article's up. I'll also link that in the show notes at the bottom in the description. You guys can check that out. Which will also link to Kitbash, and then hopefully, like I said, you can get the kit from the store. It will be free. As long as you make an account, and then yeah, I'll leave Max's ArtStation links as well, and then of course, if you guys want to put any comments or questions and down below in the YouTube settings, then yeah, I'm sure Max will get back to me on point. He'll try and reply to them, and also leave his contact details and socials. So if you want, you can get in touch with either the Kitbash guys or Max himself, to anything really, because Max is a really open person, guy I've known for a couple of years now, and one of the nicest guys in the industry, and always able to help and willing to help anybody who's looking for it. So yeah, it's been really great having you on, Max. Thank you for giving up your time. I know you're extremely busy, so I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us today. It was really nice.
Of course, thank you for having me. I love that you're doing this podcast. It's such an inspirational podcast. I love listening to a bunch of your other episodes, and yeah, keep up the good work, Gordon.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was definitely evident when I was in LA in a light box. A couple of people coming up and saying that they recognise my voice and they listen to the podcast, and it was helping them. So I think that's the one thing that keeps me spurring on, is just the fact that people seem to take away a good message from this, and definitely feel it's inspiring them. So as long as that keeps happening, I'll keep making them. So yeah, this will be continuing for a long time. But yeah, again, thanks to Max for coming on. Thanks for you guys to listening to the episode. Hopefully this has inspired you. Like I said, again, we'll link the article down below. And just stay tuned. We'll try and get a couple more episodes up during the outbreak. Hopefully some more artists will come on and chat, and that'll kind of keep you guys distracted from what's going on. But stay safe. Hope all your guys are staying healthy, and be conscious of your surroundings, and making sure that you're staying 100% free from the virus. And yeah, we'll just catch you on the next episode. Thanks again, Max. Thanks again, guys, for listening, and we'll see you guys later.
One last
Bye.
thing to everyone.
Okay, go.
Sorry, one last thing to everyone who's listening.
Yes.
This is an opportunity here, and really use it, and use your gifts, and use your creativity, and spread positivity.
Yeah, definitely. I can 100% back that. As much as you can. I think as things get a bit darker, and as the world seems to close in a bit, I think if we all shine a bit more of the light outside of us, then it definitely will keep the darkness off, and I think if we come together as not just as an artist community, but just as a community of human beings, I think yeah, we'll do fine. And stop buying all the fucking toilet paper. I mean, really, you do not need to wipe your arse that much. Come on. Okay, thanks again, Max. Thanks again, guys, and I'll speak to you guys later. Bye.